All right, hi, and welcome back everybody to the second video here for Target 25, Part 3. So remember, today we're talking about surface area of pyramids and cones. In the first video, we introduced that kind of thing, introduced to you the different lateral area and surface area formulas. We talked about this new thing called slant height, which is our lowercase cursive L. And then we talked about how it all fits together, right? And we did a problem with a cone. And then we stopped in the middle of working with this triangular pyramid. Remember, it's a pyramid now, not a prism, because it comes to a point at the top right above our base. And remember, we name these things off of our base, so it's called a triangular pyramid because our base is a triangle, right? Base on the bottom, point on the top, triangular pyramid. Now, a couple things we talked about before we actually just run with this problem and finish it up was we were actually given the slant height, right? Slant height is that lowercase L. We're going to need that to figure out lateral area, and obviously we need lateral area to figure out surface area, and so that's important. And we were told our slant height because we were given this line that is like tilted along the edge of our wall, right? And that's what the slant height is. A lot of times we are given a straight up and down height. Like if you look at the problem below, we are told a straight up and down height in the next one, not the slant height. So we'd have to figure out the slant height. But again, in this problem, they gave us the slant height. It's just 7. All right, so then I moved to drawing my base. And one thing that I did was I highlighted this instruction over here, assume equilateral base. Remember, all equilateral means is that all sides are the same. So I knew that if one side was 5, when I go to draw this base over here, all 3 sides have to be 5. Now, there were no tick marks in the diagram, but we wrote assume equilateral base so that we would know everything is 5. And that's awesome, right? Because part of finding lateral area and surface area is starting with finding perimeter. And now we know all 3 sides of this triangle, so our perimeter is just 5 plus 5 plus 5. So our perimeter here is 15. Now we do need to find the area of this base. Remember, our base is a triangle. So formula for area of a triangle, base times height divided by 2. Now we already have our little b here, our base. It's going to be one of these 5s. And the reason is, remember our height, if we go from one of the tips of our triangle and draw this imaginary line at a 90-degree angle with one of those other sides, that's what our height is, right? And that other side that it intersects with, which is 5 in this case, that's our base. So we know our base is 5. We need to figure out our height. And remember, when we draw that height, it cuts that base in half. So both sides of that would be 2.5 because that's what half of 5 is. And then we can work with this triangle right here, right? So I'll just kind of redraw it. And we know that this is our height, this is 2.5, and this slanted side is 5. And this is a right triangle. And so we can do a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Across from our 90 is always c. And so h squared plus 2.5 squared is going to equal 5 squared. And we can solve this for h. And so if we square 2.5, we get h squared plus 6.25 equals 25. 5 squared is 25. We'll subtract 6.25 from both sides. And so we'll get h squared equals 18.75. And then we'll take the square root of 18.75. And the square root of 18.75 is about 4.33. Perfect. So now we can all plug this into the area of that triangle. Remember, our base was one of the full sides, so that's 5. Our h we just solved for is 4.33. And then we got to divide that by 2. And so 5 times 4.33 divided by 2 is about 10.8. So that's our big B, 10.8. Our perimeter, which is P, is 15. And then remember, we know our slant height, which is 7. And so now we can start working through getting these answers. Remember, lateral area, new formula, perimeter times slant height divided by 2. So our perimeter is 15. Perimeter times slant height divided by 2. Perimeter is 15. Slant height was 7. And then 15 times 7 divided by 2. So 15 times 7 divided by 2 is 50, oops, not a 2. It is 52.5 meters squared. So there's our lateral area. And then remember, surface area for a pyramid is lateral area plus 1 big B, because a pyramid only has one base, right? The other side is the point of the pyramid. And so our lateral area is 52.5, and then big B we just found to be 10.8, so we'll add 10.8. When we do 52.5 plus 10.8, we are going to get 63.3 meters squared. Perfect, and that's our final answer. All right, let's move down here. Now, notice in the instructions here, this says square pyramid. The reason we wrote that was because this kind of looks like a trapezoid kind of base here, but it's actually a square. It's just a bad picture. And so that's a square pyramid. And so real quick, I'm going to draw that square over here, draw our base. And I know one side 6, the other side 6, but in a square, all 4 sides are the same, right? So they're all 6. And that's our base. We're going to find the perimeter of that and the area of that in just a second. But real quick, let's come back down here to the slant height. The slant height, right? Because this 4 is our straight up and down height. That 4 is our straight up and down height. We don't want that. We want the slant height. And so that slant height is kind of this right here, right? That's our L. Now, we've got kind of a triangle there. The slanted side is our L. The straight up and down is 4. And then this bottom part right here is like half of one of the sides of the square. So if a side of the square is 6, then this half is 3. And so we can get our slant height by doing 3 squared plus 4 squared equals L squared. 3 squared plus 4 squared is 25. So then we can get our slant height by taking the square root. And so that means that 5 is our slant height. 5 is our slant height. All right, so obviously we'll use that in a second. So we'll want to remember that over here, right? But now let's come over here and find perimeter and area of our bases. So perimeter, right, we just got to add all those sides together. So let's add these 4 6s together. And 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6, 24 feet. So our perimeter, 24 feet. And then area of our base is big B. Remember, for a square, we can just consider it base times height. So that's just a 6 times 6. 6 times 6, and that equals 36 feet squared. All right, so we've got perimeter, which we'll use to find lateral area. We got big B, which we'll use to find surface area. And one more time, we're going to need this slant height to find all of it as well. So remember, lateral area, perimeter times slant divided by 2. So our perimeter is 24. Our slant is 5 divided by 2. 24 times 5 and divided by 2 is going to give us 60 feet squared. 60 feet squared for the lateral area. And then remember, surface area is our lateral area plus 1 big B. And so our lateral area is 60. We found big B to be 36. So 60 plus 36 is 96 feet squared for our surface area. And there it is. All right. So I told you we're going to be working with rectangles, triangles, and circle bases for the majority of the time. There's another walkthrough for each of those. Now, for the remainder of this video, let's talk about working backwards. So this first example, they tell us the lateral area of a pyramid is 400. So LA equals 400. And the perimeter of our base is 28. So P equals 28. They want us to find the slant height. So L is like a question mark, right? L is a question mark. And so let's remind ourselves what the lateral area formula is. Lateral area of a pyramid is going to equal perimeter times slant divided by 2. And so we can start plugging some of these numbers in. 400 is our lateral area. 28 is our perimeter. And then that just leaves us with L missing, so we just got to solve for it. So this equation can look like 400, right, because that's our lateral area, equals 28L divided by 2. Now, there's multiple ways to go about this, but we can keep it consistent to how we've done it kind of in the past. Let's get rid of this fraction on the right side. We're dividing by 2. So let's times both sides by 2. And when we times by 2 on the right, divide by 2 and times by 2 just cancel. So that's going to equal 28L. And then 2 times 400 is 800, right? So then if we want L by itself, right now we have 28 times L. So the last step is just divide both sides by 28. And the 28s will cancel, leaving us with L. And 800 divided by 28 is what L will equal. And so 800 divided by 28 is roughly 28.6. 28.6. And the units here are inches. So that's telling us that our slant height was 28.6 inches. Perfect. And so it's all the same process as what was up above, but this time we had to work backwards. But we're still working with lateral area, perimeters, slant height, area of base, those kind of things, right? All right, one more problem. Lateral area of a cone is 2,500 pi. So LA equals 2,500 pi. Now, real quick, I'm going to go to my calculator and figure out what that is without the pi. 2,500 pi equals 7,853.98. 7853.98. 7853.98. So that's what our lateral area is. Ooh, and now they tell us the slant height. So we know L equals 72. We want to find the radius. So R equals question mark, right? Now, let's talk about the generalized formula. Lateral area equals perimeter times slant height divided by 2. Now, remember, perimeter for a circle, right, a circle base is going to be what our circumference is. And our circumference is pi times our diameter. So we can rewrite this whole thing as lateral area will equal pi times diameter times slant height, right? All divided by 2. And what we can do now is we can take our lateral area, which is right here. We can plug that in for LA. We can take our slant height and plug that in for L. And then we can solve for our diameter. And once we get our diameter, remember our radius, which is what we want, is just half of that number. So let's do that. So our lateral area equals 7853.98. And that'll equal pi times diameter times our slant height, which is 72, all divided by 2. Now, this is going to be a little bit complicated, all right? But I am going to start by doing 2 things. Number 1, just like I did before, I'm going to times both sides by 2 to cancel out this fraction. And secondly, I'm going to figure out what 72 pi equals and just put those 2 numbers together. So here we go. If I times this by 2, 1500 or 15,707.96. 15,707.96. And that's going to equal, and let's see what 72 pi equals. 72 pi is 226.19. So this will equal 226.19 times our diameter still. And then we'll just divide both sides by 226.19. And that'll tell us what our diameter is. And I guess I'm just going to have to do that in a different video.